Welcome to Smart Branding, a podcast dedicated to branding, naming, and domain names. I'm Tatiana Bonneau, and with my guests, we try to help you create and grow strong, memorable, and meaningful brands online. I believe time is one of our most precious assets, and so I want to thank you in advance if you decide to spend the next 30 minutes with us. I promise to do my best to make those worth it. Let's go! So today my guest is Charles Tiné, entrepreneur and president of the Small Projects team. It's an NGO born out of international collaboration in Ukraine, Poland, and France, working on making a rapid and direct humanitarian impact on diverse projects. Hi, and thank you for making the time, Charles.
Yes, good morning. It's a pleasure to speak to you, Tatiana.
Wonderful. Let's start with a bit of a... Yeah, sorry. Thank you.
No, I was just saying thanks for receiving me on your podcast. It's very exciting.
Wonderful. My pleasure. Tell me a bit of a background, like how did you get to do what you're doing? How did the Small Projects for NGO start?
Well, it's a story which is unfortunately starting to be a bit long, because I was actually, I was in branding. In fact, I was in online brand protection business. I was running a company for domain name and monitoring of brands, of usage of brands, etc. It is a company I sold back in 2021, and then was starting to have other projects, other entrepreneur projects, and I was actually not involved in any operational role in any company at the time the war in Ukraine started. And I was actually visiting my kids, grown-up kids in Paris, late February 2022, from Montreal, where I usually live. And after a week, the war started, and I was in France, was close to where everything was happening. I had seen my kids for a week, so that was fine. They were fed up of me, and so I was supposed to go back to Canada like 10 days after the war started, and I decided that I could try to give a hand at the border, because I was looking at the news as everyone, and being very emotional about what was happening. And I decided to take a backpack and fly to Krakow. Then I met a friend who was working in Humanitarian NGOs in Krakow at that time. So I spent a couple of days with him. Talked to me a bit about what's happening on the ground, and I tried to help him with a couple of logistical questions and trying to find, some armored vests for humanitarians, etc. It was the time where, everyone had, no one really had expected what was happening. So, a lot of people were looking for very basic stuff. And I stayed a couple of days in Krakow, and I arrived on, I think, the 3rd of March at the border, just with my backpack, with absolutely no idea of what I was about to find. And I arrived in Medica, which is the border village at the border of Poland and Ukraine. And there were, literally thousands it was a non-continuous flow of thousands of refugees crossing the border. And it was absolutely huge, because the people were waiting 3, 4, 5 days behind the border on the Ukrainian side, because it was a very small, bordering station. So it was like just 2 officers and a lot of checking, etc. So, and it was a real, grassroots organization. It was a corridor which was created by humanitarians from volunteers from, really all over the world, of course, more Europe than the rest of the word, but I, met some people from New Zealand, from Australia, from all the countries. And, we started to organize, some, distribution of the loads of humanitarian aid, which was, arriving from all over Europe by trucks, by vans, by private cars. It was absolutely incredible. It was 24/7, of course. And then I moved from Medica. After some days, I moved to a nearby city, which is called Przemyśl, in Poland, which was like 5 kilometers away from the border. where the municipality opened a transit center for refugees in an old Tesco commercial center, which was not used. And in fact, it became the main transit point for all the refugees willing to go to countries outside of the border of the bordering countries. I mean, all the refugees who wanted to stay in Poland, they went to the train station, and then they went to Krakow and Warsaw, where you had the main refugee camps. But you had also some people asking to remain, to go to other countries. They didn't want to stay in Poland for whatever reason. And all those who wanted to go to countries not, outside of Poland, they were directed to this center, which was, at one stage, almost 2,000 people, 2,000, people staying 2 or 3 days. And then the volunteers on the ground in this center, they started to create some country booths, country help desk, I would say. And these help desks were a mix between travel agency, immigration information, trying to find some, foster families, some transport, some informations about the immigration rules, etc. And remember, everything was starting. I mean, it was a time where we had no information about the status that they would get, because it was just before the European Union put in place the unified statutes. So it was, and so I founded the French desk, put a French flag, and then received and then gathered some more volunteers, and we created this desk. And you had about 15 countries which were present on this center, and basically we managed to get about 1,000 people on the road every day with a free transport, with a family or center waiting for them at the end of the road, etc. It was absolutely incredible, and it was again 24/7. And we had, we saw all the flows. We saw the people from Irpin, we saw the people from Mariupol, we saw the people from the, from all the cities, with all the waves of, people. Of course, the first ones were people from Kiev, and Bucha, Irpin, and all the Battle of Kiev. But then we, like a week after, we had, we started to see some flow from Mariupol, and the more eastern, I would say, it was, the more difficult it was for those families, because they were, people from Kiev, they tend to be English speakers. You had at least, more than 1 out of 2 people English speakers. But when it comes to the east side of the country, it was much more difficult. So Google Translate was our best friend. And but no, it was absolutely it was breathtaking. It was very emotive, very challenging. But as I said to most people, we were miracle makers, because we really managed to get everybody on the road with Facebook, WhatsApp groups, which were being created by the day, with people starting to spread the word that there was this center. So we received a lot of humanitarian aid. We had the warehouse of the Tesco center, which is big. I can tell you, it was full of beds, of clothes, of wheelchairs, of food, everything. And people were coming by the day. Tens of people from everywhere in Europe were coming to propose their help, and take people back to their homes and host those people, etc. The solidarity movement was absolutely incredible.
That's amazing.
And then I was supposed to stay a week. I stayed 2.5. I stayed 2.5 months. And after a certain time, I had a bit of pressure from home to come back.
I can imagine.
Yeah. So especially that I was not, being very clear with my information. because I was saying, okay, I will come back next week. I will come back next week, and we'll come back next week.
Yeah.
And my wife said at one stage, okay, don't tell me you're going to come back next week because you know it's not true. So tell me that you're going to stay 1 month or 2 months, but I can arrange myself. But please don't let me like a week. So I ended up by going back to Canada, and then I started to work for, several NGOs on the ground and people I've met in this experience and in all this flow of people. And to make it short, entrepreneurship came back, and I finally created my own NGO with some partners, some Polish partners and French partners at the end of the summer. 22, and since then we've been doing a lot of small projects. And the idea of small project is that aside from big NGOs and from big organizations with cost of structure, with heaviness sometimes, etc., we wanted to be very agile and very quick to act, and the idea was that if we receive 500 euros, then we don't, we're going to use the 500 euros very quickly. So we did a lot of small project being from, like I would say 2,000 euros to 20,000 euros of value. And we sent almost 200 generators in different places in Ukraine during the winter. We produced locally in Ukraine some wood stoves that we distributed into some of the invisibility points that were created by the cities. And then we've done, it's very heterogeneous. It's we've been doing some books distributions to kids. We have a logistical chain with trucks and warehouses where we help NGOs with no transport capability to who collect, especially in France, who collect aid. We help them to bring that to the ground. So, for instance, yesterday we had several pallets of clothes arriving in Kherson from France that we organized the transport for, and that arrived in Kherson yesterday, basically. That's going to be distributed by some local partners this week to victims of the dam explosion. So it's ongoing. We're depending on what we can have, what we received, what fund we receive, and what demand we have from partners on the ground.
Absolutely. It does remind me, I used to, some ages ago, work on the marketing, was helping with marketing of an organization that was actually based in the UK and NGO as well. And they were doing projects in Africa. And there was a very similar notion of, they were saying there's obviously, it's great what big organizations are doing, but oftentimes, like you said, they're not that flexible and can be that quick. And also there was another thing where oftentimes people don't have understanding of the local everything, setup, culture, language, absolutely. Even, and there's nobody that knows that better than the people that are there themselves. And oftentimes those are small organizations.
Yeah, you've got to be really on the ground to meet the people, to meet the right people, because there is it's a fact that there is corruption in the country. So it's very important for us to be sure that the partners we work with are legit and that they're going to receive and distribute 100% of the donations that we provide, and that they, especially for the generators, which were costly equipment, new equipment. So you don't want your donation to end up being sold on the secondary market, on the black market. So that's all. It's a daily challenge, but now we have some legit and very trustful partners. But we had some, as everyone on the ground, we had some, I would say, bad experience, and we had to cut relationship with several organizations because we felt that they were not reaching our level of exigence.
Sure. And I'm going to bring you back to, you mentioned brand protection. You were in brand protection. And because I work with premium domain names, oftentimes when we talk to charities, NGOs, organizations that are not commercial, I hear them say, "Oh, well, we're not a commercial organization. Branding and naming and all that is not that important to us." What are your thoughts on that? From now, both of your experiences, the one where you used to work in, brand protection, and now as an entrepreneur and NGO founder.
I think that humanitarian marketing is very important because we all depend on donations. So it's absolutely key to be able to have a real marketing strategy, and of course, branding is a part of it. And that is, of course, the domain name, it's the website, it's the social networks, and everything. So it's not less important in humanitarian than in any other business. And humanitarian is gathering a lot of funds. There is a lot of competition between. It's comparable to businesses. I mean, you have to position yourself. You have to convince people to give you some donations. You have to to protect also your brand, and you have to do some reporting on what you're doing. So that's even more important sometimes than in a business, because you have to report. People don't buy anything from you; they give you. So they expect the only thing that they expect in return is to be sure that the money they give you is properly used for what you've promised. And even in the choice of our partners on the ground, we had to stop relationship with some partners, even though they were doing a fantastic job on the ground. But they were not giving us any reports because they said they didn't have time, blah, 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 etc. But we know that, that they were doing a fantastic job, but they were not up to our standards for the reporting. So they didn't send pictures, videos, etc. And people have to understand, when they are beneficiaries, that everything that we get, we get it only because people trust that we are doing a good job.
If they don't account for it,
exactly. So if they don't see that we are doing a good job, even though we might be doing a good job, but if we don't communicate, then it's not going to work. I don't like pictures of kids. Just an example. We're currently distributing some books in 4 places in Ukraine. We have, it's a program which is a 4,000 euro program, and we're going to distribute about 1,200 books to children in orphanages, in hospitals, in IDP centers, etc. And we're partnering for that with an editing company in Lviv, which is doing really great books, and they had plenty of international prizes for the quality of their books, etc. And we receive from our partners on the ground plenty of pictures of kids with books, holding books, posing for the picture and with a smile, etc. I personally, I don't like that. I don't like to use images of the kids, etc. But to a certain extent, we need to do that. We need to do that even. We need to do that properly with the authorization of the family, etc. But we need to do that because people get sensibilized when they see that the books that they have paid for are actually, in the hands of the children, and the children are happy to read. So this is a virtuous circle. Branding is, marketing is very, very important.
Absolutely. I do completely get what you're saying. We do have very good organization in Nice that was, it's been there before even the war, since 2014 actually, and obviously with the war, it has accelerated and grown much bigger. to accommodate that flow of people. And I had exactly the same feeling and you can see a lot of people like come there to get help and aid and or live even in the premises, and they don't like being taking pictures of it. It's I wouldn't like that with myself and my children. So it is a problem, but like you say, and that's I guess where that marketing side comes in, where you have to handle that on both sides.
Exactly.
Absolutely. So what would you say from your experience are some, like if we say some very basic do's and don'ts for entrepreneurs who launch themselves into charitable projects like that? In what way? You did say that, I completely agree, it's very similar to actually running a business, but there are some specifics, I would imagine.
Well, the specifics is really, the specific is the reporting. That's very important. The people want to see the impact, and that is why we. Our baseline is micro humanitarian instant impact, because what people like is the fact that if they choose us, let's put it that way. When you have $100 to give to a charity, either you go to Red Cross or you go to UNICEF and you give that, and you don't know what's going to happen. You probably expect that 50%, if not more, is going to end up in their big salaries, in the cost of structure, etc. And you expect that it's going to arrive on the ground, but you don't know in which country, you don't know. But on the other side, if you want to find some organization with an immediate impact, you have a lot of choice. If you go on the internet, if you go to Facebook, etc., and you've got a lot of crowdfundings, of pods, etc., and you don't really know whether they are legit, whether it's scam, whether it's it's pure fraud or whatever. So I think that's for anyone willing to create a small business in humanitarian, is to give trust. The main thing is to give trust, and trust comes from the fact that you show that you are doing valuable actions. And so again, the reporting is very important, but not only. It's important to differentiate yourself from the Facebook. I'm not saying that Facebook groups or Facebook organization and that crowdfundings are not legit. I'm just saying that that donors don't really know who they give to. So, if you see the two extremes of the spectrum, on one side, United Nations or Red Cross, and on the other side, a Facebook page asking to send money on a PayPal account, then there is a room in the middle but if you want to take this room, you have to be very credible. You really need to inspire confidence. And by that, I mean that you need to have a proper website. You cannot, I don't think it's wise, not only, otherwise you are limited to your first field, to the first circle, to your friends, your family, and the friends of your friends, but it's not going to expand. If you want to expand to people who don't know you, who are not friends and who are not part of this, Facebook kind of activity, if you want to widen the spectrum, then you need to have a proper website, because the website will, probably give, if it's well done, it will give trust. You have to communicate. You have to create your own mailing list. You have got to, to inform the potential donors. Every time that we do a newsletter, we've got some return, because we have some donations, because suddenly people realize that we're doing something efficient. So reporting is the key. You've got to ask, but you can ask whatever you want. If you don't show that you are doing, people won't give to you. And there is a lot of competition. There is a lot of, a lot of people want to give, but also a lot of people want to receive. So, and the second challenge is to be able to pass the first emotional level. Ukraine, for instance, today it's very difficult to motivate people to give to Ukraine. There is a kind of Ukraine fatigue, and which is, to a certain extent normal because people have given. After 1.5 years, there is the economic crisis in Europe, etc. They won't give every month, so it's getting more and more difficult to get some funding actually because the press don't speak very often about Ukraine except in the cases of some specific events like the dam, like the cathedral, etc. But otherwise it's getting a bit out of the headlights. So the challenge is it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. So the challenge is really to be able to expand the activities to more than the first 2 months of emotional situation and of people getting very thrilled to give. Today we receive about 90% of our funding from companies versus 50-50 last year, for instance. It's different. The company really want to show their continuous support, and they can because we also provide some tax rebates, etc. So that's another point. If you're in any country, in most countries, there are laws allowing people to can get a tax rebate or tax credit or whatever. If they give to charities, it's very important to have those statuses in the countries that they are operating in. We are, even though I live in Canada, it's the NGO was founded and legally incorporated in France, and we can provide like 66% of tax credit to each donor, tax resident in France. But this doesn't come, straight out of the box. You have to make a lot of procedures to get this accreditation from the French tax office, the tax ministry. So that is very important because when you're in competition with someone else, if someone cannot provide this tax credit, then you will be in a real disadvantage. It was not that important at the beginning because at the beginning of the war, there were plenty of people willing to give. So the fundings were not that much of an issue. But today, when you're looking for funds, you really need to have this official status, wherever you operate in. You really need to be clear with that. So, and for the website, it has to be in .org. Please do not take .com for charities. That's it's not an uncommon mistake, but it really shows. It's a bad start to have the name of your website in .com. So it has to be, it has to be a .org because that's the naming structure, and it's very clear that it's non-profit. Otherwise, reporting, communication with the donors, regular communication with the donors, with reporting of the actions.
I will allow myself to just add on the .com that obviously the .org communicates that you're a charity and it should be your main domain name. In terms of domain strategy, I would advise anyone to still get the .com as well if it's available, because otherwise you're going to have people confusing and just naturally typing .com because it's what they tend to do. And two, you're opening yourself to somebody just taking that name and abusing it in some way or benefiting from your traffic. So you can redirect it to the .org because that's the main thing. But just for protection, you've been in brand protection, so I would imagine.
What you're saying is what I said to my clients for 25 years, and now, being a client. On the other side, I even forget. Now I forget to. And you're absolutely right. But now I forget to apply that to myself. So which but you're absolutely right. Brand protection is also protecting from cyber squatting, and from any type of diversion of traffic. So you need to. But on the front line, you have to use your .org and then get the .com redirected. Of course, yes.
Absolutely. And like you said, it's all about credibility and trust, and consistency plays a huge role in that in all cases. So that goes through everything, like the brand name, the domain name, the care you put into even other domains, or how the whole structure is organized, so that you avoid or protect yourself from anyone trying in a way to damage your reputation.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you've got, of course, to use the social networks, Instagram, Facebook, etc. I mean, that's. But the website, if you go to see, for instance, some corporations, you need to have some corporate documents. You need to be able to present the structure as professionally as if you were, a commercial company. I mean, I'm not saying that you cannot achieve anything if it's like more grassroots organization, but I mean, you need to it's better if you can show that you are well structured, but you need also to show that you don't spend too much on too much money, too much of the donations on structural costs, etc. So
absolutely, it's a balance.
Yeah.
All right, and last question. I'm sure I can talk forever, but I'm trying to keep it relatively short so people can listen to the podcast in one go. What are you looking forward to? It's difficult to say, but I'm sure like you have a lot of projects, a lot of things in the making.
Oh, well, personally speaking, I want to, continue to, as long as it's needed to do what we're doing to help the Ukrainian population, that we're not going to stop until basically they don't need us anymore. So the challenge for us is to gather volunteers and get people understand that it's a marathon, not a sprint, and it's also a matter of selecting the right people for the organization, because you've got sometimes people coming, to ask to join us, but they don't really expect the work that they will have to do, or they come for some bad reasons because they want to be on the picture, but they they want to appear as a good person, but they don't really want to work, and they kind of we had some narcissistic profiles, willing or not, to communicate on their own Instagram accounts, and have some difficulties to make them understand that we're here, that the organization is is the most important, not the individuals. So the challenge for us is to renew when we, and it's absolutely normal that people at one stage leave the organization, because you can't be a volunteer base, you can't be a volunteer all your life. So we had some students who had to go back to school, to university, or in the ending their studies, have a bit of time for 3, 4, 5 months, but now they have to find a proper job. We have some people who were installed in were working for some companies, now turning to entrepreneurship, so they don't have the same kind of free time. So that's absolutely normal. It's just a matter of organizing ourselves to still a core team willing to really be engaged. So that's the human side of it. Now the challenge for us is still to continue to get some funding, and when we've got some funding, there is absolutely no problem for us to spend the money. Believe me, I mean, there are many projects on the ground needing some help. And in the longer run, I mean, I will personally have to go back to work at one stage. So my kind of sabbatical year, which was supposed to last 6 months, has now been 1.5 years. So I will, take still the next 6 months until the end of the year to be full time on that, and then I will probably have to pass a bit of time on matters which help me buying some food, because
basic stuff like that,
Yeah, exactly, just basic. But I cannot sustain this rhythm for much longer than the end of the year. So, but that doesn't mean that I will stop the activities. Far from it. I mean, I would I would certainly be more in consulting and capable to organize my time the way I want. So that's my next month's thoughts. But also, it's there are plenty of exciting things to do. I've met so many people over the past year and a half, so many exciting people, interesting people. Ukraine is I've learned to to know much more about the country, and to know about the economy, also to know about the fantastic startup ecosystem that there are. So I used to be an entrepreneur in tech, so I'm not going to to forget all that part of my life. So there are definitely plenty of, I mean, the technology, which there are plenty of interesting and very disruptive. I don't like disruptive word because I think it has been used many times just for marketing reasons. Yeah. But the war has produced a really change in technology and has created plenty of interesting stuff. So there will certainly be some part of my work which would turn to Ukraine with the people that I've met. So it's not going. I'm not going to. I mean, this war has changed lives of millions for very specific reasons, and it's been dreadfully hard. For me, it has also changed some things in my life. I mean, when the war stops, I'm not going to say, okay, bye-bye Ukraine, and that was a part of my life. I mean, I think that the next years will be at least partly around what's happening in Ukraine. I mean, to put it the other way, the vibe, every time I go to Ukraine and I leave, I'm sad to leave. I'm happy to come back home. I'm happy to have a sleep because it's tiring to have red alerts every night and be woken up every night. So when I do that, it's for 15 days. So I can't imagine what it is when you all the time there. But seriously, there is such a vibe in the country. I left France because I was, tired of the atmosphere in France. To be honest, when I see the difference of atmosphere when I go to Ukraine and when I go to France, there is, I would be, like with, single, nothing, I would definitely set up in Ukraine today.
Do you know what's funny? Because we're moving and we were having talks with the director of the school that the kids are going to, and they're going to the French lycée in Kiev, and we were talking to him about, how do you feel the atmosphere is there, and and everything, and he ended up saying, do you know what, like if you want me to tell you shortly, I've been, I've been working in Paris and in Nice, and his career was largely in France. And then he went to head the school there. And he said, when I go back to France now, I get stressed out.
Yeah, I absolutely. It's funny because I was attending a conference the other day in Chantilly near Paris. Around Ukraine, with the presence of Alexandra Matvichuk. She was giving a speech, and it was during the social unrest in France. One of the social unrest in France, I would say. And we had to go back by bus from Chantilly, and we're and to Paris because the bus of the organization was bringing us back after the evening. And everyone was very stressed to come back to Paris, crossing the suburb, the northern suburb of Paris. The bus driver was saying, we might not be able to cross. We might be able to have to leave you in Charles de Gaulle, and you take the train. I don't want to risk my bus, etc. And I was, I was saying, okay, I should, when I'm in Kiev, I'm last time I was in Kiev, I remember I was, eating at the Arsenal at some very good oysters. And, and I said, okay, well, come on. I mean, you're very stressed here. I mean, it's cool. It's much more chill than when I'm in Ukraine. So no, there is an absolutely, it's where things are happening, and the things will happen, geostrategically, economically speaking. People often say that 30% of the GDP of Ukraine has collapsed. I mean, has disappeared in the war. Yeah, that's true. But 70% is still there. And it means that, when you're in Kiev in the morning, you've got some traffic jam, and in the evening, you've got some traffic jam, because it's a city where people go to the office, full stop. I mean, people sometimes don't really understand that. And I was, the last time I came back from Kiev, I was in the night train, sharing the compartment with a gentleman who was half Bulgarian and half Spanish. And we started, of course, to chat. And I said, well, are you a humanitarian? And he said, no, I went to see my clients in Zaporizhia. I said, come on, what is your business? We are a fishing company, an industrial fishing company in Vigo in Galicia. I think it's Galicia, in Spain. And we, one of our big clients is the fish market of Zaporizhia. And I went to see my client. Wow. I come to visit him every 2 months. And that has not changed ever since the beginning of the war. And he showed me pictures of the fish market of Zapo, and it was absolutely incredible. You had everything you needed. I mean, and the guy was doing business. It was business as usual. And that was, I mean, the best sushi restaurant I found over the past 5 years was in Lviv. Every time I go to Lviv, I stop to this restaurant, and it's fantastic. The fish is,
you're gonna give me the address of that place.
I'll give you the address, yeah. And I stay when I'm in Lviv. I stay in a hotel on the Rinok Square, which is called Oysters and Bubbles. And every night they've got some oysters coming from Odessa. So, so that's, and the vibe, the music industry, the people, there is a real movement, and again, the entrepreneurship movement is really impressive also. I speak to many startups in IA, in plenty of different fields, and it's very, very interesting to see what they are doing and to see the mix up that they do between business and support to the country. You got some young politicians with a clear vision of the future of the country. When you see that Dia has been sold to Estonia, I mean, what Fedorov is doing. There is a big level of excitement for me in this country.
Wonderful way to end the interview. I absolutely agree with you, and I'm looking forward to be part of that as well.
Yeah, I'm sure, I'm a modest business angel in Canada here. And I'm sure that there is scope also for business angel investments in, of course, it's risky. Of course, it's the timing to invest in Ukraine seems crazy, but there is such an energy, and there are so many bright people who were, to a certain level until before the war, they were a lot of subcontracting companies for I think that it's not going to, they're going to gain confidence, and they are going to be leaders instead of only subcontractors of Western companies. And I think that is there is a very bright future for the IT industry in Ukraine, and from also a lot of other industries. But I think IT, for me, it's what I know, and it's very interesting.
Absolutely. Wonderful. Well, thanks a lot for that. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you for joining us in this episode of Smart Branding Podcast. Feel free to visit smartbranding.com for more information, and reach out if you have any suggestions, questions, ideas, or just want to learn more about how a good domain name strategy can help you build a strong and successful brand. See you next time.